collections project through school, but I already had a pretty in-depth background with the museum. I came here a lot as a kid and always really enjoyed the collections exhibit of the museum, which is the area where they have more of the history of the museum and more of the natural history specimens, and that was always really fascinating to me as a kid. So when I found out that I would get to work with more of the museum's collection as an artist, I was really excited for that opportunity to have access to all the great things that the museum has within its collection here. And it's all more along the lines of what I saw as a kid, sort of the taxidermy. The dead animals in jars were always super fascinating to me, especially Emily the turtle, which is what inspired me to do the art that I have here now, which are animals that have two heads, which is also known as bicephaly. And it was just really fascinating to me about how animals can live and operate when they have two heads and two brains, and sort of the random odds that kind of come together to actually make that animal function. There are certain things where if the dice isn't cast right, having two heads isn't to your advantage, but then sometimes an animal can function perfectly normally with two heads. So it's kind of, I'm interested in where nature kind of messes up a little bit, or the pieces don't come together quite right. And that's what really fascinates me about science and nature, is how there's always sort of that chance that something will go a little bit wrong. There's always room for error in nature, which I find pretty fascinating. I think art is a great tool to teach science, because I think that both art and science inspire creativity, and that when you pair art and science together, it's kind of like they work as a team, and that kind of curiosity building realm where you get science which asks question, and art is a tool that can attempt to answer those questions. And science, you get a lot of the logic, and this leads to this leads to this, and that's kind of the opposite of what art can usually be, which is more loose and free and organic. So they kind of work as two opposites that balance each other out, and they work really well hand in hand, because you get a sort of duality and a balancing act that works out really well as an education tool. I would say to someone who is considering science as a subject in their art that to look around and find the one thing that you find truly fascinating in science and just run with it. Whatever you find most interesting is what's going to make the best art for you.